In the last year, we've sent around 4 million emails, generated around 9,000 leads, and booked around 4,000 calls for ourselves and our clients. In this video, I'm going to break down some of the lessons that I have learned. And if anything, it's going to be something interesting for me to look back on in a year's time and see what other lessons I have learned beyond this point. Just for some context, here is us, and here is some nice people saying some nice things about us. We currently have just under 40 clients at the moment, and we are relatively mid to low ticket, but we're currently changing that, and we're changing that because of lessons that we've learned this year. So I'll talk about why we're making that change. In terms of our journey, we're definitely not the most advanced. We're not relatively new to the space. We've been started in SMMA and got here maybe 2.5 years ago, and we've been in the SMMA space, or in the making money online business space, for like 10 years now, which is kind of crazy to say. So here are a few of the lessons that I have learned this year and how they apply specifically to building outbound acquisition systems and, I suppose, growing or scaling an outbound acquisitions company. So simple scales, fancy fails. I was told this years ago, but it didn't make any sense to me years ago. I had a call with Nick Abraham recently, and essentially we were starting to increase volume for all of our clients, and I was trying to figure out like how he was able to do that. Nick Abraham, lead bird, I think they've got like 250 clients. So he is just big in simple scales, fancy fails in terms of just uses one provider. So he just uses Hypertide for all his inboxes, or he did when I talked to him a month ago, like don't quote me on that. So we've moved to Hypertide for everything because of the way that all your billings in one place and everything. We used to run a whole lot of split tests to begin a campaign when we brought on a client. Arguably that just brought in a whole lot of noise because there's so many variables going on anyway, and you're not going to have enough data points to really pick winners. So instead now we test just like 3 split tests that we're confident all will work, and instead of testing random stuff, unless we see trends across other parts of the portfolio, and then we can take those lessons. But simple scales, fancy fails. When you're trying to send more volume, you want to simplify the providers. When you're trying to do lead nurturing, you want to simplify the lead nurture process as possible. And to be fair, when you get more and more and more leads, it's actually easier to simplify the process because there's less noise in the process. And what I mean by that is, like, we will bring on a client and we'll generate them like 3 calls, and they will take a lot of lessons from those 3 calls and start playing around with the process, the sales process. When it's like, no, you need to do 30 calls before you start playing with the sales process. So simple scales, fancy fails. For us, this has meant that we've simplified our tech stack, like gotten rid of tech because it just provides more breaking points. So less tech with backups for each, meaning like we'll use Lead Magic for all email verification, but if that Lead Magic is down, then we're going to have a backup where the team knows how to use the backup, okay? And we've got like backups for everything. Essentially, like if there's backups on the lead scraping, we can reuse leads, and we've got a big super-based database that we can just pull the leads from. So the backup systems, but few systems, okay? Campaign structure and Smart Lead. So we just use Smart Lead, and we have our campaigns like this. So they're clustered, right? Meaning like this one client, right? This is going to have a lot of campaigns because they're a big client. Will have all their campaigns in one folder. It just keeps things nice and easy and allows you to scale. I would say when like 12 months ago, I thought that you could kind of like out copyright the volume. Like if someone's sending 20,000 emails a month, I'm like, you don't need to send 20,000 emails a month. You can just send like 5,000 really good emails. And like I still see people online talk about this, and maybe they've come to a different conclusion than me. Like I'm not saying they're wrong, but the conclusion I've come to is like you're not going to be able to write copy that's 4 times as good. And like if you can, why not send 20,000? Like there's no disadvantage to sending less except for the cost. It's just going to cost you more money. But if you have something that is working, then you should send more of it, because it's not promised that it's going to work in 6 months' time or 12 months' time. So figuring out ways to send more volume, especially if you can figure out ways to send more volume for the same price or at a cheaper price, that is really the game. The game is finding campaigns with good ROI. And if you can generate more leads, right, by sending more volume and figure out how to do it at a lower cost, then your campaign is going to have a really good ROI. So sending volume is a big metric in that. Like, we are looking at which clients can we take from 20,000 a month to 200,000 a month in email sends. Because from an agency's perspective, we've got essentially rods in the water. And if one campaign is going really well, we might as well just put more resources into that campaign. Meaning that, like, if we have 10 different campaigns running and one of them is performing really well and the total addressable market's big enough, we might as well allocate all resources to that campaign and scale it as much as we can, because there's a better ROI on that one. So it's a better investment to put our money into it. Obviously you want to be diversified if you're investing, all this sort of stuff. But the game of cold email is to find arbitrage opportunities. And when you do find one, you want to scale it. And so sending volume really is king. Like, I know people that disagree with, well, they don't disagree with me. If I, like my chat with Mitchell Keller, which is on this channel, link it somewhere above maybe. He works with companies which have a way more niche TAM, like TAMs of as low as 2,000, which our process isn't necessarily built for, and he has unique ways of doing about that and providing an ROI. But you are going to be capped at some point with cold email doing that, right? Like, because you can send 2,000 in a day. And would they make more money if their TAM was 200,000? Yeah, because you could send 2,000 a day for 100 days. So if you've got a smaller TAM, you probably want to layer on more things. Like, you're going to make your outreach more potent. And when I say layer on more things, I mean like call them, send them texts, be more targeted with the outreach, send them a pizza. Right? You can do more things. But when it comes to cold email, scaling, sending volume is king in my opinion. Another bit of thing I just want to shout out to Eric. Cached input tokens, ChatGPT. So the way that I was writing prompts for the last 12 months was wrong, apparently. When I was writing prompts, I would write prompts and say like, for the domain, right? And I'd put in the variables. For the domain, can you please find X, Y, and Z? And then put in the variables throughout the thing, or I'll put the variables at the top. What you want to do is you want to put the variables at the bottom. So you could say for the domain below, can you please find it? And at the bottom, you'd have domain equals this. Because what this is doing, if you're using ChatGPT for outbound, which I'm assuming here, you're using like clay tables, and so you've got the same prompt going over and over and over again for a whole lot of different leads. And so if you put the only things that change in the prompt at the bottom, it's going to essentially remember the top part, and you're not going to have to pay for it. Well, it's going to be 50% off. It's half the cost. And so from doing this, we've saved maybe like 10 to 15% of our ChatGPT cost, which I think we spend maybe $1,000 a month. So it's some savings. I didn't know about it. Shout out to Eric. I'm glad that people are out there in the space figuring out these things and then posting them on YouTube. Hopefully I can also figure out things and post them on YouTube. So serious companies call prospects early in the sales process. Most of the companies we work with, let's say do 10 or 20 or $30 million a year or more, which isn't necessarily a big company, but I'm just going to say it's a more serious company. They're not a very small business. They will just call the leads. Anyone that has a question, they'll call them and they'll answer the question. So the bigger the company, the more willing they are just to call the prospects. Oh, this person has a question, I'll call them, right? And the more comfortable they are calling prospects, building rapport, taking them to the next step. They're not like trying to write the perfect email response when you've done a cold email outreach. They're just trying to connect with the lead and move them forward in the sales process. So most of the larger companies we work with who sell high ticket things just call prospects. So if you want to be a larger company, act like a larger company, call the prospects. Just pick up the phone and call the prospects. Okay? This is a big thing that I have learnt this year, and the reason why I've learnt it is because we've worked with multiple companies selling the same thing to the same people, getting the same leads. Like, we literally give them the same leads, and some close heaps of deals and some don't. And the key defining factor is that some know how to do lead nurture properly, it's not even know how to do it properly, they understand what lead nurture is, and some people don't understand what lead nurture is, and so they don't do it properly, and so it doesn't work. So what is lead nurture in the context of cold outbound? You are reaching out to somebody that does not know or trust you. They're actually skeptical. Like, it's not like they're neutral, they're skeptical, because all they know about you is you're trying to take something from them. That's all they know. You're trying to get something from them, money, most likely. So that's the viewpoint. And so the game of lead nurture is to build trust and rapport with the prospect to give yourself the opportunity to pitch your services, right? Because you can't pitch your services until you've built that trust and rapport. So you need to take the prospect through some process to build that trust and rapport. And so I use the golf analogy, and I think it does a really good job of explaining this. And the more I've used it, the more sense it makes, which is always a good sign when you're using an analogy. So let's say you're playing a round of golf and you're at one of the holes, and you've got a whole lot of balls on the tee box, and if you get a ball into the hole, that is you making a sale. So hitting the ball off the tee is you doing that cold outbound, and most of the balls will go out of bounds, right? But a few will land on the fairway, and that's essentially someone responding positively to your email. They might have a question, they might say how much, they might say sure, let's have a chat, they might do any of these things. They're landing on the fairway at different points, right? The lead nurture process is you getting the ball close to the hole after that first hit. And there's heaps of different types of lead nurture processes. Some people are just like, they've hit the ball to the middle of the fairway, and now they just get their putter out. Like, okay, I'm going to make the longest putt in history and just try and close these deals straight away, right? Most companies will call the prospect, build some trust and rapport, see if there's someone they can help, and then tee up another chat. They try and hit the ball closer to the hole. Then on that other chat, they might do the same thing again, and then perhaps they'll try and pitch, right? So lead nurture is going to be different depending on how much trust is required to make the sale. Like, for example, we're working with like an M&A firm. They typically need like around 12 touch points before someone's interested in listing with them. That's the lead nurture process. It takes 12 touch points, right? And in each one of those touch points, you are both sniffing each other. Is there somebody I can help? Is there somebody I want that can help me? You're trying to figure each other out, as well as build a genuine relationship, because selling their business is probably one of the biggest decisions they're going to make in their life. So they have to trust you. There has to be a super high level of trust, right? Working with another company who can help you get rid of unfair Google reviews, they don't have any calls. They just send over the contract and say, hey, if we can get rid of it, it costs this much. If we can't, you don't pay. Like, what's the Google review? We'll try to get rid of it, right? Because you don't need that much trust, because you don't pay unless they do it, and if they do it, you're happy to pay, right? So different lead nurture depending on the outreach. If you are a smaller business, there's going to be less stuff out there that people can look up and just trust you. So you're going to have to get into the trenches and build the trust. And you're going to have to get into the trenches and build the trust and do that over and over again until you can start to figure out, what is the system here that builds trust? So for us, we do a two-step close, meaning that Daniel will do a discovery call with the prospect. Daniel, my business partner who does our sales, will do a discovery call with the prospect. And then from there, if they're a good fit and they seem like a good person, there's someone we can help, we then say, hey, let's jump on a video call and I can share exactly what we do. And from there, you can see if it's something that makes sense for you. And then we move them to a video call. We go through a video call, then we pitch price, and then we have a closing call after that, because they're going to need to talk to their dog or business partner or whomever to make this decision, to make sure it's a good decision for them. So we have 3 steps, and what we're selling is not tens of millions of dollars. So there's different strokes for different folks. But lead nurture is undervalued. If you're generating leads and not closing deals, look at the leads. Are they someone you can help? Yes. If there's someone you can help who has landed on the fairway and they're not turning into money, probably a lead nurture process issue. Lead nurture is undervalued. The internet is your new landing page. People will look you up. Like 100%. And I understand that you can use fake names and fake domains and send out cold emails and get responses, but you are battling an uphill battle, because you are battling against the human nature of trust, that these people don't trust you. So when I get a cold email, and probably when you get a cold email or some cold DM or some cold outreach, you're going to look them up. You're going to find put their name and whatever there's in their email signature, and you can put it into Google, and you're going to see their LinkedIn, their company website, maybe their YouTube channel, whatever their key social is. That's going to come up, and you're going to have a quick look. Like, if you put your name and your website into Google and what comes up isn't extremely appealing, then you need to fix that. Like, the internet is a new landing page. Everyone you're emailing knows how to do some research on you. It's not like they don't know. And if they do know but can't be bothered, they're probably not going to be a good sales call. Because what you've emailed them about is obviously not like that painful. Those are the emails where people reply, sure, right? They haven't done any research. They're just like, yeah, sure. Whatever. So people typically find your LinkedIn and company website. These are the most common things that people will find. Make sure what they find is good, right? If you look at Hawani Taylor, it's probably not going to be super accurate. We've got my LinkedIn, me doing a testimonial, our website, and the YouTube. All of these things point towards me being an authority with lead generation, okay? Every one of them. So I love it when somebody looks me up if we're doing cold outbound, because it's going to build trust and rapport. It's going to get the ball closer to the hole. So make sure that's the same for you, because it does matter. Right. So at the moment, at the end of 2025, beginning of 2026, which is crazy, AI is currently giving people the ick. And by that, I mean that people feel like it's low effort. And it doesn't mean that it is low effort. Like, I understand how much effort goes into making AI work, but it feels low effort, which is why, so people are like, don't use M dashes, because AI uses a lot more M dashes than typical people. And so if you're using M dashes, then people are just going to assume it is AI, right? And that gives people the ick. It just means that you don't want it to feel like it's AI. So if you read it and it's kind of obvious that it's AI because of the sentence structure that AI uses, I would say avoid it for now in your cold outbound, because we've found that the more human it feels, the better. Like, and for example, when I do my LinkedIn posts or I'm doing emails for our email newsletter, I purposely don't use any AI because I think that it stands out. And again, this is a personal opinion. I don't have any data on the LinkedIn post or anything to back this up. I know people with way bigger, more successful LinkedIn followings that use AI for everything, but this is my personal opinion here. Writing it by hand, I probably don't have the best sentence structure in the world. I probably don't have the best grammar in the world, but I feel like that personal touch at least is not going to give people the ick, okay? So as of now, I would say avoid using AI where it's obvious that it's AI, okay? Another obvious thing, if you are doing lots of outreach for yourself or you're doing outreach for other people, save all your leads in somewhere like Supabase. Supabase is just extremely cheap to save millions of leads. So you want to save them somewhere so that you can reuse them. We've found that you can reuse leads really with no harm or no drop in performance every 4 months, and you can probably do it more frequently than that. Just make sure anyone that has asked to not receive an email from you does not ever receive an email from you. It's okay to not want to receive emails from you. Like, don't take offense if someone wants to unsubscribe. That's fine. And don't email leads again if they're already somewhere else in your CRM and your salesperson's following up with them. So those are the two things. Otherwise, save your leads in Supabase and you can email them in the future. So this is, again, my opinion, might change. I think the bigger the total addressable market and the LTV, the bigger the potential opportunity with cold email. So if you are a B2B business and the thing you sell is worth, you've got an LTV of $5 million and you can serve every small business in America, then I think there's a huge opportunity for cold email. If the thing you sell is $10 and you can sell it to 100 people, well, then that's not a very good business idea, but also cold email is not going to work. So I think the bigger the TAM and the bigger the LTV, the bigger the potential opportunity, because there is essentially more room to scale, right? Because you can have one, and let's say the TAM is 1 million. There's 1 million businesses that you could serve. You only need like one in, let's say, 100,000 to convert, and you reach out to 100,000 a month, let's just say. So you close a deal a month, and then every 10 months you can just go back through that lead list, right? And so what it also does is, if you can justify sending at higher volumes because your message is relevant, then you can build out systems that capture leads for longer term nurture. For example, we are using like Sender at the moment, and I will find an example. So here's an example of like Sender, which we're using at the moment. So you can build out custom personalized landing pages based off each prospect and variables that you've got from each prospect. And the part that is really appealing to me is we can like embed YouTube videos, let's say, and let's say you're doing 100,000 outreaches a month, and some percentage of them watch the YouTube video or click play on the YouTube video. YouTube is then going to start recommending organic content to them when they visit YouTube later that day or later that week. So when you can justify doing the scale, because you only need like 1 in 100,000 to convert because your LTV is so high, then you can build out more and more back-end infrastructure. You can put pixels on this page, and you can spend $2 a day retargeting ads. You can start to build way more infrastructure that provides longer term nurture. And it just means that you can build, in my opinion, a far more robust outbound acquisition system, because you can do far more volume. And so you get a whole lot more throughput through the system, and you can try and squeeze more and more juice out of it. So you could put in some sort of free lead magnet in here as well, say down the bottom, where if they do that, they have to put in the email, and now you're starting to get people onto like your email newsletter. You can start to flesh out more and more stuff, right? You can also make it such that like someone lands on this page, you automatically connect with them on LinkedIn. You can start to treat cold email as an advertising platform, and as such you can get a lot of eyeballs and start to convert them over a longer time horizon. Okay, so that's why, one of the other reasons why I think this is bigger for the potential opportunity. This kind of ties into it. To solve complex problems, give a piece of the pie. So this is both us trying to solve complex problems, we're giving a piece of the pie to our partners, or looking at bigger companies who are wanting us to solve outbound for them, they're giving us a piece of the pie. So we are finding more and more that revenue share makes sense with outbound. Why? Because what you do does tie directly to revenue for the most part, so it makes sense. But also, like, if you actually want to solve outbound for like a big company, it takes a lot of effort and a lot of work. And if they can't stomach like $50,000 or $100,000 a month, which I fully understand you can't stomach that without any like promise of return, then revenue share makes sense, and it makes sense as something to partner on. So we are looking at more and more revenue share deals, and like I've been playing around, we're moving to more revenue share deals because it's more exciting to get involved in revenue share deals. It also means we can get more into the trenches with solving complex problems. And as part of that, we have our partners that we can give revenue share deals to help with revenue share deals for bigger companies. So we can give more pieces of the pie out to solve these complex problems. In order for this to make sense, the deal size must be large, but we are experimenting with some where the deal size isn't particularly large, but I think the offer is really good and it's a mass market offer, so potentially that could work. So to be determined if the LTV actually has to be massive for this to work. So hopefully that provided some insights. If you want to have a talk to me or somebody in our team about scaling and growing the outbound acquisition for your B2B company, there is a link below. If you want to dive into deeper of how we do our system and how you can build one out for yourself, there should be a 90-minute video on screen now. I'll see you there. Peace.